This video is about making a comic. It is about sharing my comic book art, but it's also, I think, on a deeper level, this is encouraging me to just go for it. We're just going for it here. I made a mini comic this week and I'll be sharing that in this video. And in addition to sharing the comic, I will be sort of showing you my process and talking a little bit about the thoughts that I had as I was working on my comic. But before we get into that, I just want to say hello to all of the new people that are following me. I've gotten so many kind and encouraging comments on my videos. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching, and I hope that you enjoy this video too. So let's talk about where this even started. I established at the beginning of this year that I really want to start making comics. I have some long comic book ideas that are very much in the idea stage, but I haven't done any sort of longer comic book art. And I've done little one-off drawings here and there, but I haven't done a whole big project. And so what I decided this year was that instead of trying to attack a whole big giant comic book project, I'm gonna start practicing and getting working on smaller bite-sized projects is what I've been calling it. And I have been working in my sketchbook, of course just drawing in general in my sketchbook, but I've also been doing some little one-off shorter comics in my sketchbook, and that is kind of where today's video starts. I'm working on a lot of dog drawings about my dogs because that's what I want my comic book to be about when I get to the big idea. I want it to be related to my dogs. And so I've been really trying to work on storytelling around my dogs, drawing them consistently, messing with how I want to design their characters and other characters in their world. And that's where I started. So the basic storyline of the comic is that I took one of my dogs down to the beach and she went a little wild. That's the general plot here. And the way that I have been plotting out my comics for my sketchbook is I start outside of the sketchbook just on some scrappy paper and draw some pretty ugly little thumbnail, just doodle type comics, and sort of lay out kind of how I would want the storyboarding to go. And so that's what this is, and I just think these are some funny little drawings. Honestly, sometimes I think that the thumbnail version of stuff is more true to the storytelling because it's just so loose and so expressive. But after that, I took my ideas, I kind of took my planning out of the scrap paper realm and I transferred it over into the sketchbook realm. And this is where I started really getting into it. I really liked what I had done. And at this point, I was just planning on having this as a sketchbook comic, like all of my other sketchbook comics that I've been doing. And I was working on it and I was like, you know what, this is actually kind of a nice little comic. This is something that I think is a little bit more valuable than just leaving in my sketchbook. I would really like to see this go somewhere. And that's when I thought maybe I should just turn this into a little mini comic, a little mini zine, mini comic, and just put it out there. And I thought that, and then immediately I thought, no, I can't do that. It's not good enough. It's not thought out enough. It's not enough. And that's something that I've been working really hard on getting over, is just getting past the overthinking and the self-doubt and the honestly over planning as an obstacle and just going for things. I think that I've shared a lot of my creative goals and sort of where I'm coming from in some previous videos, but really what it comes down to is that I am trying to encourage myself to just go for things, just go for my ideas, just try them out, just see what happens, because I have had a lot of time away from making art. And so in a lot of ways, I'm just building back confidence and just trying stuff out. And I think the only way to grow and improve on your art as an artist is to make something that is maybe not as good as you wanted it to be or isn't what you planned on it being, and then build from there. It's really hard to improve on something if you don't even try it in the first place. So this video is about making a comic. It is about sharing my comic book art, but it's also, I think, on a deeper level, this is encouraging me to just go for it. We're just going for it here. And so I did just go for it. I was like, well, you know what? Let me get out of my own way and we're going to turn this into a comic book. So I had my art already done in the sketchbook for the actual comic, but I didn't have any kind of cover. I didn't really have anything that was intended to make it like a thing that you could give out to people. So what I started with was like, well, I know it needs a cover if I'm going to turn it into a comic book. So I sat down and just drew out something that I thought would be nice. I did this like long drawing of my dog Francine, and she like spans the whole cover. And I kind of on a whim decided to label it as volume 1 because I thought, this is a really short little comic, but I think there's a lot of space for me to keep working on these more serial, shorter comics and turning them into maybe a longer thing later. And so I called this volume 1 with the anticipation maybe of having like a volume 2 or a volume 3 and then combining them into like a compilation type of thing. We'll see if it happens. I don't know. Maybe it's just volume 1 and that's all there is to it, but I think that I might like to return to this project and kind of like keep adding to this sort of casually. So after I made the cover, I just did like a quick scan of everything into Photoshop and turned it into something that I could then print. I didn't worry too much about like if it was a high enough quality scan or not. I just kind of wanted to see the vision, and I thought it turned out okay. It was pretty good. It was definitely like a little bit crunchy looking on the scan, and there were some things that I wanted to work on, but I just kind of wanted to see what it would look like as a book. And as a book, I thought it looked pretty good. It looked like a book to me. I went back into Photoshop and I messed with the images that I had scanned in, and I kind of got rid of some of like the weird quality of scanning from a sketchbook, and like I kind of just did some finishing touches on the scans. And I went and I printed it again, a second little booklet that I made, but version 2. And I looked at it and the scans were definitely good. There was no more of like the weird gritty little like marks and random spots on it, and so I liked that. But I did notice that there were a few little issues that I wanted to address before I considered this like a finished project. I noticed that I could see like the other side of the paper through the paper, and so it made it kind of hard to actually read the comic and to like see the image and what was going on. So I definitely wanted to get some thicker paper for that. I also had the idea that it might be nice to get some like thicker cardstock paper for the actual outside cover. And I was really torn on whether or not I wanted to get like a colored paper or like a bright paper or something that's like a little bit funkier, or if I wanted to just stick with plain white because I would like to be making more comics. And so I didn't want to get stuck with like 1,000 lime green cardstock papers. But actually what I ended up getting was this really cool paper. It is white, but it's like a little bit cream off-white, and it has speckled colors in it. It's pretty subtle, but here's a little like visual of it out in the sun. I think you can kind of see where it gives it just a little bit of a handmade touch, just a little bit of something extra to it. And I am really happy with that. And I got a lot of them, so you will be seeing this paper again. And then most importantly, I was looking at this book and I was like, I feel like this is missing something. And what I decided is that it needed some identifying information. So the comic I was happy with, but it was essentially just like this mystery comic and it wasn't attached to anything or anybody. And so what I decided to do was that I was going to put a way to know who made it and how to find more of that stuff. And I drew out this idea just in like a pink gel pen on one of my like little test prints, and I drew it and I really liked it, and I liked the idea of it, I should say. It was a little sketch. It wasn't really much of anything. But then I went back in my sketchbook and sort of did a more like finalized built out version of it, and it's just a little picture of me that says thank you for reading, and that's on the back cover. And then on the front cover, I don't know what made me do this with this particular project, but I decided that I was gonna make it so that you could go to a website to find more of my stuff, which is great in theory, but at the time of filming this, I did not have a website at all. There was no website. So I just wrote, go to this website and you'll find some stuff, but there's no website. But now there is. I wrote it down, so I decided, well, I guess now I have to make a website. So here's an FYI for you. If you would like to go to my website, you certainly can. It is sorfdoug.com, and if you go there, you will see one other little comic. I don't really know how to edit it that much yet, but I'm sure it'll be great sometime in the future. If you want to circle back to just going for it, you know, I made a website, I just went for it, and I'm sure that I will figure out how to make it better later. But yeah, so I am glad that I have a website. I have had one in the past, and I knew that I wanted to have one eventually in the future because I do want to have like a digital archive of the comics and the art that I'm sharing. And at some point, eventually, I would like to get to submit to some like zine festivals or different arts groups. And so I think that it will be important that I have some sort of online digital presence that like shows proof of my work. I didn't really plan on making that today, but here we are. It's all good. So yeah, and at that point I had made the improvements that I wanted to make on the paper. I added in the new information about where to find my work and the little like back cover portrait of me. But I went ahead and printed all of my copies of the different pages and got ready to start making my zines. And so what I did is I printed them so that I could have 2 pages per like normal printer page, and I just sliced them all down the middle. And I have this nice little paper cutter that I just got fairly recently, and it is like already one of my new favorite things. It's so nice. I had like a little cheap plastic one for a long time, but this one rocks. So I cut all my papers, and I know a lot of people will use like I think it's called a bone tool or a bone folder to fold zines and comics. I didn't have one of those. I may get one in the future, but I did find this little like plastic clay scratcher thing, and I use that to just like do a nice neat little fold on all of my comics. And after that, I just slid the pages into place. I combined them into their little packets, and I used a stapler and I stapled them at the seam or at the fold part, and those would be the finished comics. They are good to go. At this point, I will do a little slow flip through the comic so you can read it, but now that I have a website, you can check it out there. Once it's on there, it's not on there yet, but once I figure it out, it will. The only thing that I'm not happy about with this zine, and this isn't even something that I necessarily can control, I think, is I don't love the printer lines on the cover. I think that is maybe just the nature of my printer. It's not really like a high quality art printer. But if there's anybody out there who is making comic books or zines that has any input on how I might be able to improve on that, I would love to hear your input. And all that is left is for me to distribute my comics. They are done. I made about, I think, 20 or 30 of them. So my plan is to take them with me when I go places and just drop them off at like different like coffee shops, little bookstores, just to kind of have them with me and distribute them and like try and spread them as much as I can. And what I'm gonna do today though, there's not any of those places too near me, but I am gonna take Francine back down to the beach, and we are going to return to the scene of the crime, run around a little bit, and there is a little free library that is right there, and I'm just gonna drop a handful off in the little free library because I do feel like an important part of this concept for me is that I don't wanna just make stuff that stays with me. I want it to be shared with people that aren't me. And so I'm just gonna drop it off there. Yay! And if you've gotten to the end of the video, thank you again for watching. I do think that the takeaway for me that I hope that you take away too is just follow your ideas. If you've got something that you think is good or you think is cool or you think is worth spending your time on, just go for it. Don't overthink it. Get out of your own way. Just go for it. Just try it. I am so pleased with how this turned out, and I learned a lot about how to make a comic book. I got to use some like new skills. I made a website, which I wasn't planning on. I think that, nothing bad can happen from just trying something and seeing how it goes. So that is it for me. I hope that you are working on something that is making you happy, and I can't wait to share with you next time. Bye.